Hello everyone. This is Module 2 presentation, Part 2. In this section, we will explore children's developmental characteristics. Your assigned readings in your textbooks go over children's developmental characteristics that are important to consider when working with them. In this part of the presentation, I will go over some more information regarding children's thinking to expand the information in your textbooks. Children notice differences and learn about societal messages very early on. Many teachers and families are hesitant to accept that children are conscious about differences. These are some comments from teachers and families. Shouldn't we only focus on similarities and not differences? Children are young and they don't see differences among people. By talking about differences, you're making them see differences. Why can't let kids be kids? By bringing up these issues, we put ideas in their heads. Well, actually, research shows the opposite. According to research, awareness of differences come about at a very young age in young children. It's important to know how children's minds operate in order to guide them in meaningful ways. Let's review young children's developmental characteristics. Young children are conscious about similarities and differences. Well, how do we know? Aside from the research, they ask questions or give comments about what they see or hear. They ask questions and give comments about skin color, shape of eyes, facial features, hair color, hair textures, wheelchairs, glasses, physical impairments, foreign accents, different languages, body shape, and family structures. They're very curious and observant. A 3-year-old child turned to his mom and said, "Why doesn't that man have hair on his head?" Can you think of an example? Write it down and share it with us in your discussion posts. I would love to see them. Young children tend to focus at one thing at a time. What attracts them is the most visible and salient part of a person. Skin color gets their attention to understand about differences. They focus on clothing and length of the hair that are visible to determine gender. What is considered salient also depends on social, cultural, and political context that the children are exposed to. Some actions and circumstances influence what dimensions get to be more salient for children. I remember when the Iraq War started. Daniel, a 5-year-old boy, had many questions and made comments about who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. Children tend to be egocentric. They interpret the world from their own point of view. Since they also tend to focus on one thing at a time, it is hard for them to see things from someone else's point of view. When Kevin took the Batman figure from Vikram, he did not seem to consider how Vikram felt. He just wanted the Batman figure. Young children sometimes tend to have difficulty seeing the effects of their actions on others. A 4-year-old girl told another 4-year-old girl, "I don't want to play with you. You're ugly." It's hard for young children to understand the permanence of physical characteristics. Once when I put on my husband's suit for Halloween, my preschoolers thought that I had turned into a boy. Young children organize their everyday knowledge into categories. When they have a category of a shovel, they know what it is and they don't have to find out what to do with it each time that they are in the sandbox. Categorization is actually a very important function of the brain. They also learn to classify things by shape, color, alike and not alike. When they make the categories, they tend to overgeneralize. This leads to stereotyping. For example, they may say, "Indians wear feathers." Or many children think that teachers live in preschools. Young children tend to think in dichotomous terms. Someone is either this or that, but not both. You're my friend or you're not my friend. The idea of good guys or bad guys really appealed to them. Anyone that is good tends to be right, and anyone who is the bad guy tends to be wrong. And they make false associations. But all these can lead into stereotyping. Joey was 3.5 years old when his grandmother visited from Vietnam. His mother was concerned because Joey did not want to go near his grandmother. After speaking with him and listening to him, I found out that he was scared of her because she was old. He told me that she was a witch. You know, Joey had seen the Snow White movie, the Disney movie, and was scared of the witch who happened to be old and also happened to be a woman. He had already made that generalization about old women who were scary. For Joey, younger women were good and older women were scary. I have another example for false association. While reading a book, a 4-year-old told me that the man on the wheelchair can't be a daddy. When I asked him why, he said because he's on a wheelchair. You know, children are not born with stereotypes and prejudices. These are learned and due to socialization. Children learn them overtly and by observation. An example is hearing derogatory statements about a group from family members. Stereotypes can also be learned without direct instructions. Many of the cartoons or movies that the children see have elements of sexism, racism, or ableism in them. Remember the quote from your anti-bias book? It's not differences in themselves that cause the problems, but how people respond to differences. Children are curious. They ask many questions and make comments. If we do not respond and we silence them, they learn that differences are bad to talk about. In addition, because of their limited thinking, they make false associations. By responding to them, we can give them accurate information. We should also never, ever ignore children's remarks or actions that hurt someone's feelings. We should address the issue directly and tell them that it's not okay. It is not appropriate. We will discuss this much more in the future modules. In the book Anti-Bias, on page 14, the authors discuss that children develop pre-prejudice as they absorb negative attitudes and misinformation. For more information, attached is a handout by Stacy York from her book Roots and Wings. The handout summarizes the steps in the development of prejudice. It also gives 4 explanations for pre-prejudice behavior. Reading this handout informs us of the huge role of the environment on children's development. It is also important to recognize that all of the explanations that York proposes to be considered as interrelated and just possible explanations. After reading your assigned readings, go to the discussion sites and answer the questions. I will meet you there. Thank you again for your time.